Hello and welcome to another Comics Burst from the Full Force podcast, sponsored by Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, where we take an in-depth look at the newest G.I. Joe comics and related titles of the week, with me as your host, Chris, back on that snake hunt, McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80, and joining me for this episode is Brian, massive snake hunter Hickey. On this instalment of your absolutely favourite kind of burst, we look at the latest issue of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 273. So without further ado, let's get stuck in, shall we? Snake Hunt, Part 8. Cobra Commander wants the snake eyes of his own. The Joes have other ideas. It'll take two armies to settle this dispute. It's all hands on deck for both G.I. Joe and Cobra as living legend Larry Hama and fan favourite artist Robert Atkins continue this massive 10-issue event, featuring every single member of G.I. Joe. There's no half-time break in this contest, folks. All action, all the time. You may recognise that description, because it's the same description we've had for this run of issues for probably since issue 1 of this Snake Hunt series. So I find it quite funny that they haven't bothered changing that on the IDW website so far. And I should really be reading the one that's in the comic, because that kind of gives us a little bit more, kind of catches us up to speed a little better. But I'm not going to. Anyway, Brian, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good. And looking forward to diving into number 273, Snake Hunt Part 8.
We've really got to put a space between those two words, haven't we? Yeah, let's get stuck in then, shall we? So first off, let's talk about the team on this one. Obviously, it's Larry Hama on writing duties, Robert Atkins as the artist, Brian Atkins on inks, Jay Brown on colours, letters Neil Uyatake, and editors Tom Waltz, of course, senior editor Tom Waltz, editor Megan Brown, and research assistant Diana Davis. Let's give Diana a shout out on this one.
Nice one.
She's actually been researching the research assistant for quite a lot of these issues. I think she started probably about 3 or 4 issues ago. I'm sure Diana will correct me in the comments, but good to see her name on there as well. Good friend of the show.
Well, I have to say, Diana, if you can let us know how the October Guard managed to be resurrected to appear in this, we would love to know.
Oh, we certainly bloody well would. Okay, let's start with the covers on this one, because there's some pretty cool ones. We have on the cover A, we have like we're moving away from Snake Eyes, Throwdown. We're moving away from Throwdown, and we've got a new cover now from Robert Atkins and Brian Atkins on colours. We've got Dawn and Scarlet fighting with tons of different Vipers, including, I think, there's a Ninja Viper, which is really awesome. You don't very often you don't really get to see the teal-coloured Ninja Viper, and they've thrown him on this cover, which is great. And I know Aaron Dietrich of Roma Collectibles will be very happy with that inclusion. What are your thoughts on this cover, bud? That's
a super cover. Love that. I mean, two of my favourite G.I. Joe Real American Hero characters, Dawn Moreno and Scarlet, and they're going up against the cream of what Cobra has to offer, and they are kicking ass. I love how the Viper's faceplate is all cracked from smack Scarlet's after giving him. That's all-out action-packed cover. It is, I suppose, a bit of a divergence from the work that Robert has done previously on this run, but you know, it has that Snake Eyes feel. You've got Dawn in there. I mean, again, she's, you know, another sort of connection to Snake Eyes in a major way. So it's nice that, you know, to see Dawn getting sort of pride of place in one of the front covers in this series.
Absolutely, and you're right with that. I mean, it does have a Snake Eyes on the cover. It has Dawn. So, but again, you're right. Kind of a slight departure from what we've been seeing. The very much an individual Snake Eyes cover for the most part up until this issue. So it's nice to get that. And this kind of almost throws back a little bit. I mean, this doesn't happen in the issue. This looks like more from that part a few issues before, where the Cobra Vipers and the different Cobra factions entered the pit and attacked the Joes in their own backyard, and obviously Dawn and Scarlet were prominent in that fight. So that's what it screams to me. Or it's giving us a little kind of future glimpse as to what to expect in 9 and 10 of this run.
Well, that is actually a really cool observation, because I was thinking this is maybe, you know, next issue what we're going to see after having read the 273, but I think it probably is more of a throwback to the pit, because you can see a lot of that, kind of, balconies and stairwells and stuff in the background, which is not unlike that kind of hangar area in the pit where the initial kind of attack on the Joes and the kidnapper throwdown took place.
Yeah.
And in fact, these are exactly the kind of Vipers that the Night Vipers, the Frag Vipers, they're the kind of guys we saw in the fray a few issues back.
Absolutely.
But look, let's see what happens next month, and who knows, maybe it'll connect back in then too.
Absolutely. I mean, Alley Vipers, like Heat Vipers, it's got all sorts in there. Frags, like the Ninja Vipers, the Night Vipers. Yeah, loads. Great. A Saw Viper in there. Anyway, moving on to cover B, and it's Jamie Sullivan and with Jesse Heagy and Audrey Sullivan on colours on this one. And again, it's the continuation of the connected covers showing the entire G.I. Joe team. And this time we've got the Defiant in the background, and we've got a bunch of characters. Some that stand out to me. Law and Order, obviously, is always really cool standout figure. You got General Hawk, Duke, General Flag in there as well, when being held by another general. Is that, I forget which general that is that's holding him, but effectively you've got a lot of Joe characters. One I would point out is that you've got Airborne holding a picture of Crazy Legs, who's already perished in this kind of continuity, but also Crankcase has perished in this continuity, and he's there alive. So might have been a little error there, but it's a really cool cover again. And I mean, what are your thoughts on these connected covers?
I love the connected covers, and I really I prefer these to the cover A variants. So I'm collecting these cover B variants at the moment. When I have the full run, I'll take some pics and we can share them up on the Facebook page.
Nice.
But this is a beautiful cover. I love that the Defiant is getting a feature here, and you've got all that kind of outer housing all folded out. I love how that's kind of faded in the background, and of course we have a lot of our space crew, or the kind of the sci-fi crew from G.I. Joe, smack bang in the center of that shot, right underneath where the column of the Defiant kind of descends behind them.
You got payload, haven't you? Yeah, totally.
That's a lovely piece of illustration, and can't wait to see all that connected up.
My only criticism of this cover is what is going on with Cross Country's head, because he looks like the guy in Men in Black who gets shot by Will Smith. By what's his name? What's his name? I've completely forgotten his name in the Men in Black movie. Tommy Lee Jones. Who shoots the guy in the head and his head explodes and he grows a new one back. He kind of looks like that. Like, what is going on with Cross Country's head? I just don't understand it. In any case, that's my only concern on that cover. Moving on, we have another retailer incentive from John Royal. Again, not really in keeping with what's going on, but again, it's really cool. You've got Tunnel Rat and you've got Beachhead kind of infiltrating via a sewer system on what looks to be, I would imagine, some sort of like Cobra Island kind of setting or something like that. Really cool. He's got one of his lights on his backpack. Famous, obviously, the figure for having the two little flashlights in the backpack. Yes. So, kind of reminiscent of the card art a little bit there as well. Very cool. He's holding a pistol and a knife, and you got Beachhead behind him, kind of cocking his shotgun. Cocking his what? Cocking his shotgun in the background there, sneaking around the shot. I mean, what do you think of this issue cover?
Every time we do a burst on this, I'm a big fan of John Royal's artwork. Nothing to do ever with what's going on in the comic, but his illustration style. He's really good on the Joe franchise. I love his Joe covers. The situations look pretty gritty, and there's always a sense of action or something very dynamic going on. So even in a shot like this, where the guys aren't necessarily engaged in combat, just the way he's got that kind of foreshortening with Beachhead in the background, Tunnel Rat kind of larger than life in the foreground. I mean, it just adds a lot of drama to the overall image. It looks fantastic. Again, you got these kind of sort of jungle foliage out in the background. It gets your imagination going as to kind of what's happening here, what possible stories taking place. Definitely not anything to do with Snake Hunt, but still, I want to know more about this.
Totally. And it would be remiss of me not to mention Jagdish Kumar on inks and James Afraidy on colours as well. They make a pretty solid team for these retailer incentive covers. Moving on, we have 2 covers by Mike Mayhew, who has just revealed some more covers for future issues as well, which kind of link into these as well. So it's basically, they're both East Side Comics exclusives, and the first one is Baroness Black Dress exclusive, and that is actually an homage to the Sunbow episode Ode to Cobra, which had the Baroness in this exact dress with the long gloves.
Oh, wow.
Basically on a boat with Lady J and Flint and Destro. Well, Destro and Cobra Commander were watching from a distance as they tried to manipulate this billionaire, and with this kind of newfangled perfume that Cobra had kind of been able to kind of create, which allowed the user of it to fall in love. You know, the person that smelled it on the person would then fall in love with them. So it's a bonkers episode and worth watching. And in actual fact, we did a live stream of the Action Force episode, which you can find on our Facebook page if you want to go and check that out. It's fun watch along where we kind of do like a little commentary about it as well. Really funny. And in actual fact, yeah, so that's what that is kind of homaging. And then there's another cover, Baroness White Suit exclusive, where they've got the Baroness in a all white gear, which we've kind of seen another artist do as well, haven't we? We've seen another artist kind of do the Baroness in all white.
In kind of the snow one, she had kind of like a fur-lined kind of hoodie or parka jacket or something as part of her uniform.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think of these covers then, bud?
I mean, these are beautiful covers. I mean, they're, you know, Mike Mayhew's art on these is, I mean, it is fantastic. Obviously, you've got the exact same pose on the Baroness across both images. So it's like the uniform is the bit that kind of changes. It's almost like a layer in Photoshop, I imagine.
Yeah.
That he can just flick between the evening gown and the combat suit, or the Arctic weather combat suit. There's kind of 2 sides to Baroness. You know that she has this kind of background, this aristocratic background. So the evening gown totally taps into that.
Yeah.
And then of course she could be a ruthless killer as well, so having her in the more kind of combat style outfit as well makes total sense. It's a really nice kind of pair of covers. They looks great. Top job, Mike Mayhew.
Yeah, and like the photorealistic kind of vibe as well is really impressive too. I've always found that kind of like, you know, how the hell do you manage that? Like I don't even know where to begin, but yeah, really cool. And obviously when we look at the next, I think it's the next issue, when that comes out for Real American Hero, we'll see another pairing of covers that kind of complement these Baroness ones, relating to the Sunbow Ode to Cobra episode again.
Nice.
In any case, let's actually get into this issue, because we're probably about 20 minutes in. we haven't actually talked about the issue. Now, where we left off, G.I. Joe, the Dreadnoks, in fact, three different groups of G.I. Joe infiltration units are heading to Springfield. You've got the guys coming in from the air, the kind of the parachute team are coming in, or the Halo jumpers. You've got like basically a convoy of Joes in buses and vehicles heading via the roadway, and you've got a small team in the Bongo the Balloon Bear truck, or van I should say, heading to Springfield as well. You've also got Dreadnoks as a separate force. You've got Destro and the Iron Grenadiers, Destro Baroness and the Iron Grenadiers as a separate force, and you've got the October Guard, who have infiltrated already and are on the scene, and they're also kind of getting in position as well. So you've got all of these things converging on Springfield, converging on Cobra, converging on what they believe is a rescue attempt for Throwdown / Snake Eyes. Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender, meanwhile, have been taken hostage by Snake Eyes, while, you know, he's already escaped Laura 343. Is that right? Is it 343?
Yes, Laura 343.
Always forget her number designation. He's already escaped Laura's clutches in the kind of the hold, and he is now out, and he's causing all sorts of damage. And the Vipers are kind of on the scene trying to sort things out. And this is where we're kind of introduced. We're introduced with the Halo team coming in to land on the roof of the
Springfield Civic Center.
And what's interesting on this opening shot, which again is really nice, I really do like when Joes have opening splash pages, we have the team coming in, and it's Torpedo, Airborne and Muskrat in the foreground, and then kind of landed behind them you've got Ripcord, Tunnel Rat, Lady J, and either Wetsuit or Freefall. I'm going to say Freefall. And then, I mean, what do you think of that as an opening splash page, bud?
That's great. I mean, it picks up where we left off, exactly where we left off last month. The guys have landed on the roof. They're very quickly taking control of of the LZ as they're bringing in the rest of the team. It's killer artwork from Robert Atkins.
Yeah.
In terms of how he has that set up, we get our kind of three principal characters in the foreground, looking back up into the night sky, and we've got the rest of the team kind of coming down. It's just really nicely laid out, beautifully illustrated there.
Yeah, and then the next, we turn the page and we see that the Vipers have noticed that the guys are coming in via parachute, which is quite funny. It's like, that wasn't very stealthily done, guys, was it really? And they're like, yeah, look at the community centre, we need to call this in. And then just as they're about to do that, the October Guard pounce, take them out silently. They take out the two Vipers on the ground. They take out the HISS tank and the driver and the gunner. And then just as Dragonsky is about to torch one of the other HISS tanks, Crystal Ball is like on scene as well. He's there kind of for Zartan basically, and he ends up saying, hey, don't worry, I've got this. He says, hold your horses, Tavarich, grabs his shield out of the pizza box, which is brilliant because that's what he's literally, disguised as a pizza delivery guy, and then hypnotizes the gunner and the driver of the HISS tank, and Dragonsky doesn't have to like kill anyone or torch anything. And then they're in a position there where the October Guard are kind of like, okay, what do we do now? Who's this guy?
That's a lovely bit of humor right there. Colonel Brekov, who is this idiot? I want to shoot him. Like, they don't even know who this guy is. And, but he's obviously he has salvaged the situation because the October Guard are about to go all guns blazing, taking out the HISS tanks, which would have just, ruined any chance of, a silent attack or silently seizing the community centre. So he's actually done them a big favour, but the October Guard are obviously clearly suspicious.
Yeah.
And I love how Brekov responds by saying, we can always garrote him later.
And what happens then is like, it's kind of like a couple of things that we see it quite often actually through the issue, is the Joes identify that the October Guard are there, and they're like, is that the October Guard? And they're like, hey, Jay's like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, Muskrat, because it's like, looks like we've got allies, They've noticed that the October Guard are there, but they're also on their side. So it's like instantly from a distance without having to kind of make any connection or communication. It's just like thumbs up, cool. So the Joes infiltrate, that team infiltrates the community centre from above. And we then move into the basement security corridor where Throwdown, always say Snake Eyes in those situations, where Throwdown has taken Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender hostage. And although they're kind of, the Vipers are unaware that they're in the room, they're kind of trying to work things out. There's like there's a Laser Viper, Frag Viper, Regular Viper, Heat Viper, there's an Alley Viper in there as well, all talking to each other, kind of like, what's going on? Where is everybody? Where's the Viper detachment that was with them and everything? So this is where you kind of get Laura 343 turning up as well, and Cobra Commander kind of being forced to by Throwdown to kind of give away what's going on.
This whole page kind of works as a very sort of quick recap for us as to where things are at, inside the community centre. But at the same time, it gives us this, what are the next steps for the Cobra security team? So there's one Viper steps up, he's taking charge of the situation. He gets a pretty grim assessment that, look, the security team are gone. Laura's probably dead. We have to assume that Cobra Commander and Mindbender are taken hostage, and he sends the rest of the team in to investigate. And at that point, then that's where Throwdown opens up and starts to take out, Vipers left, right, and center. So this particular Viper who's taken charge comes up with the plan to divert the troops around through the access corridors to come in behind Throwdown, Snake Eyes, and Mindbender. And of course, we get this kind of nice moment where Cobra Commander looks over at Mindbender and says, I hope he's not sending troops down the access corridors to come in behind us. We get a nice panel there where Robert Atkins pulls out and he gives us this kind of overview of the corridor and lets us see these kind of access panels or access corridors where we have the various Vipers working the way down through those passageways to come in behind our hero.
What I really like about this run so far is the fact that we've seen so many different Vipers, and we've also seen them in their natural habitat, shall we say, of Springfield. And you kind of, what I've really loved is just seeing all that kind of variation, all of those diverse members, all the different kind of costumes and everything. I've really enjoyed that, and I think Robert Atkins, Netho Diaz, Larry, they've done a really good job of integrating all of those different kind of troopers into the issues. And this is a great scene, like you say, that pull out, and you see the Heat Vipers, you see, like I said, Laser Vipers, you see Frag Vipers and all sorts, and Alley Vipers kind of like going down these like access corridors, and it's really cool. And again, that would make for a really nice diorama display. I think that's something that could would be really nice to see in the toy kind of in toy form. But anyway, yeah, that's what's happening at that point. And then as the Cobra teams kind of start to surround Snake Eyes and are about to attack him from the sides, we flip over then to the Springfield Hospital. Now this is one thing that kind of annoys me, in that the Arashikage team, I'll call them, are like Budo, Storm Shadow, Granny, Scarlet, Jinx, Dawn. They're like running through, not stealth in any way, shape or form. They're running through this hospital. They're ninjas, don't forget. All of them are capable of concealment, hiding, doing their best to avoid any of these kind of situations. And Granny has to like knock out a copper with her brick handbag, and then they kind of like rush down the stairs, and like they're all following Dawn and everything. And I kind of think it's such a weird thing. I know they're in a rush and they're trying to get there on, they're trying to get to to get to rescue Snake Eyes, but it just feels so out of character to me, where they can't be. This would have been more fun, I think, as a panel, had they been like all kind of like trying to avoid a detection as they get through the hospital hallways, with people around. How much fun would that have been as a panel, to see them all like up in the rafters, or sneaking under the desk, or like that kind of stuff. If there was a panel they were all trying to get through to get to the other side, to infiltrate, I think that would have been so much more interesting.
I was trying to kind of, I don't want to say retcon, but I kind of shared similar sort of concerns to yourself when I did see this first. But on thinking about it, we have that, if I remember right from the last issue, they've incapacitated a police officer at the train station, but they're in their civvies. Now we see them, they're all decked out in their full battle gear. Budo's in full samurai gear, Storm Shadow's got the white mask on, Dawn's got the red visor and everything. And they're using the hospital as their entry point into the community centre. So thinking back on that, we know Dawn had previously been through the brainwave scanner. Maybe she has a good handle for the layout and ways to get into the community centre via the hospital. So they're following Dawn's advice to going in that way. But there's no time for stealth. This is like a rush job, and it needs sheer brute force to blast their way through and get down this stairwell and into the secret tunnel. But it kind of raises a few questions, because they're so visible and not stealthy, and they've incapacitated a guard. Surely you'd expect that security will be called, and they'll have somebody coming on their tail, pursuing them through the passage as they bust into the community centre. So I don't know if Larry's going to do anything with that in the next episode. I guess probably not. It feels like momentum is building. We've got to get all these forces converging as quickly as possible on the community centre now, because we've only got 2 bloody issues left.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I agree with that, but I still think, as ninjas, they could have done the stealth zip around just as quickly. Do you know what I mean? Like avoid the confrontation and just all get around. But in any case, it's by the by now. I get what you're saying though, and it does. I suppose in one sense, it does give the story a feeling of not suspense, but a feeling of like urgency. And this is just adding to that urgency of them everyone having to get to Springfield as quickly as possible to rescue Snake Eye. Throwdown. I keep doing that. I've got to stop saying Snake Eyes. So the next panel is actually a very humorous one, and we get your typical cops. One of them's fat, and they're eating donuts. Classic. They're moaning about the donuts being crap as well, which is quite funny. And there's this nice little back and forth. And then that's when we get basically the Joes and the Dreadnoks all like appearing together at the same time on the road, like going at this blockade, this roadblock these cops have set up. But it's the Dreadnoks obviously that do the damage. But it's quite a funny like little kind of series of events, really, isn't it? Because the Joes weren't aware the Dreadnoks were ever going to be on their side, and they're looking and they're going, well, looks like we've got some allies. I'm not gonna try and stop them. They're obviously, doing the same thing, which is interesting because you wonder why the Joes would think the Dreadnoks were attacking Springfield as opposed to going to help Cobra. Do you know what I mean?
I think that we've got 4 fantastic pages here, and there is great wit in how Larry's put all this together. We've got one whole page of the Joes. Hawk spots the roadblock, and he starts to send the word back down the line of the convoy to lock and load, get ready for whatever we have to do to get through here. They don't really have a plan, and then they're suddenly overtaken by the Thunder Machine, and it's just this brutal pig ignorance just slamming right through the motorcade. And the Joes quickly put 2 and 2 together, realize, these guys are clearly on our side. We won't look a gift horse in the mouth. Let's go. And soon, and they've got this lovely scene where I think it's Buzzer is on his bike and he's pulling along beside Cover Girl, and he's giving her like the peace sign.
Amazing.
He's passing her out, and then the Bongo the balloon bear van flies by as well. And of course, we know from the last issue that the Dreadnoks and the Fort Wadsworth team kind of hooked up.
Yeah.
And are traveling together. And Duke's kind of wondering, what's going to happen next. And then the Baroness and Destro and a whole squad of Iron Grenadiers go flying past. And at which point Hawk just gives the command to floor us because we're going to miss all the action. So I think that's really well put together, how Larry's done that. And it's getting everybody on the same page, all these forces converging, and they just have this huge force of allies now racing down the highway, heading towards the Springfield Community Centre. So I thought that was really well done by Larry.
Absolutely. I'll mention a couple of things that I picked up on as well. One being, it looks like Lifeline in the team of Joes when Flint's giving in the first bus, when Flint's giving the word to like lock and load and everything. And but when you zoom in on it, it's the weirdest looking head I've ever seen in my life. Like, it looks like he's got a brown kind of leather face mask on. It's the weirdest things. I'm gonna have to ask Robert what's going on there with Lifeline. I think it's Lifeline. It could be anybody. And then on the second bus, we get another glimpse, very small glimpse again, of Tiger Force Hit and Run. Only this time, Robert's given him a balaclava covering with orange and grey kind of camo on it, which I thought was quite interesting. I'm not sure if that's because Netho did him with face paint on in the first issue, in the issue previous to this one, whether Robert has kind of just taken it on himself to do a balaclava instead. I don't know, but that's really cool. That's quite cute. And again, I'm happy to see Tiger Force Hit and Run gear still on him. That's a nice touch. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention those two little
I
things.
think the mask is a COVID-19 shout out there.
I kind of want that COVID-19 shout out. And that image of the AGPs and the despoilers of the Iron Grenadiers flying in is just brilliant. Love it. Great action shot. And a great shot of Hawk then going, floor it, like yelling at the top of his voice. Then we have this is a really nice image, actually. So obviously we get back to Snake Eyes and his situation with the Vipers all kind of converging on him, Cobra Convergence. Shout out to HCC 788 and all of the guys involved in Cobra Convergence, by the way. It's been another cracking month so far of brilliant content. And then obviously we have, like I said, Snake Eyes kind of having to protect himself, takes out a ton of Vipers, and then this is really interesting. I never thought I'd see this, but he shoots Mindbender and Cobra Commander in the knees to kind of take them out, which looks really painful. And what's really funny is the reaction of Cobra Commander to say my patella instead of my knee or whatever. No, he goes for the actual patella, like the specific description of that bone in the knee.
Deadly.
Very funny that, and very Larry.
My patella.
And that's, you kind of feel like that is something that Cobra Commander would shout. It's quite funny. So well done, Larry, for doing that.
That is great.
But then we get this gorgeous image where Snake Eyes has taken out like a ton of Vipers, Frags and Alley Vipers mainly. And what he then does is he picks up a Alley Viper riot shield and a Frag Viper high-ally grenade launcher, and like uses the shield to block him from the Heat Vipers and Laser Vipers that are coming the other side, and just lugs a grenade over and takes them all out. It's just, but that image of him holding the Alley Viper shield is amazing, isn't it?
So bad. I mean, that's your bad moment in the comic.
Yeah.
Again, this spread is fantastic. We kick off with this. I mean, these Heat Vipers are bungling idiots. One of them drops a grenade, and it's clink, and he goes, "I hope he didn't hear that."
Yeah,
just bust through and attack.
That's amazing.
And they come busting through the door. I mean, he's totally waiting for them. They're gone. Kneecaps, Mindbender, and Cobra Commander, they're going nowhere. My patella! And then when the second wave come through, they see all this kind of smoke and debris, and they see this, what's that Frag Viper doing? And then he stands up and turns around, and they realize it ain't no Frag Viper. And Throwdown has never looked so bad as you see him in that particular panel. And it's almost like an Indiana Jones moment, where the crowd separates and you got this guy doing the whole thing with the swords, and he just nonchalantly pulls out the pistol. That's exactly what's going on here. The whole second wave taken out. Again, I think this is, Larry was having a lot of fun with this particular issue.
Yeah.
And this is, we've been waiting for action, and we're getting loads of action. It's all happening in the basement level.
Yeah.
But Throwdown is, he's delivering in spades here.
Absolutely. I'll come to my thoughts on the action with the G.I. Joe stuff, like towards the end. But I agree with you. I think at this point at the moment, in the basement, we're getting all of the good stuff here. And I love that, again, when you turn the page, you've got Throwdown running through the corridors, holding all of the weapons with the shield on his back. Another really cool image there. And he takes out all those Vipers, no problem. And then that's where Laura kind of comes out of hiding. She's just been behind the blast door, basically. And she kind of comes out and she says to Cobra and Dr. Mindbender, what can I do to help? And he basically orders her to go after Snake Eyes and terminate him. And she was like, I thought you wanted to keep him alive. He says, I'm rescinding that order. Go and do your worst. So she picks up a Viper's rifle and she kind of runs after him. And she says, I'm going to do the Crimson Guards proud. Which is interesting because I was kind of thinking this was going a different way with Laura. And we may even see when it gets to the point of her maybe having to make the decision to take Throwdown out. Maybe that's where we'll get the change of heart, which we're kind of expecting at the moment, aren't we? We're kind of expecting that she's too good a person to be in Cobra.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I've liked Laura 343 character from when we see her first, in their kind of undercover house just outside of Fort Wadsworth. And then as you follow, there's kind of an arc for this character where she, she's had opportunity to shoot Throwdown plenty of times. When she was guarding him in the cell, she never took it. She could have executed him many, many times. But here we are, she's got a direct order from Cobra Commander to take him out. Will she follow through on that? Or, to kind of, I suppose, gain the respect of Cobra Commander and as she says, do the Crimson Guards proud? Or is she, is there another side to her, like at a deeper level, where she's maybe disenchanted with the Cobra movement and might somehow end up saving Throwdown's life at the end of all of this? We don't know. She's a bit of a wild card in the story still. I'm not expecting Larry to do the obvious, and the obvious thing right now would be that she, convert to the good guys.
Yeah.
It could well be, imagine that as an ending. She shoots Throwdown in the back.
Yeah,
takes him down and he's finished. Like,
could
that would
be. That would
be a shocker ending.
I'm still expecting a death in this one that isn't just a Cobra Trooper kind of cull. I'm still expecting someone to be kind of taken out, and I imagine it might be her to do it, or it might be her that dies. We obviously won't find out until next month, next year when we find out that issue. I don't know, but then obviously what we're getting now. In the issue is we're getting the culmination of all of the different teams converging on the same point. We have, at the other end of the security door, we have a Cobra team led by a Crimson Guard Immortal with Crimson Guard, Night Vipers and Night Creepers, which I think is a really nice little kind of collection of troops there. It's got a really nice little grouping they've got going on there. I like how they've kept certain teams together, like you had the Heat Vipers and the Frag Vipers were together. You had, Laser Vipers as well with them. And then now we're getting like the Night Vipers and the Night Creepers are being kept together for obvious reasons. So I quite like I like that they've done that. What I think would have been great here was instead of Crimson Guard, they'd included the Shadow Guard, which are basically the Crimson Guard figures that are in black, because that would have made a lot of sense with the Night Creepers and the Night Vipers. Obviously, a Crimson Guard Immortal could still be, leading the way with those. So, I think that would have been a lovely homage to drop there, especially with the fact you've got Night Creepers and Night Vipers together. In any case, so like they're basically providing security for this point of access, this point of entry. So they're all behind barriers. They've got the guns pointed at the doors. You've got the team upstairs coming down like the Muskrat Airborne Torpedo crew, and Torpedo's setting charges ready to blow the door to kind of get in, which I think is the other side of this security corridor because the doors look very similar either side. So I'm guessing they're about to blow the door, and then obviously there's going to be a huge firefight at that point. Then we flip over to the front door of the community centre, and what I thought is quite interesting here is you've got Airborne again, but he's there in the upstairs section. So it's weird that we've got two Airbornes there. I've just realised that. I don't know what's going on there. I've just noticed that. That's a mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a mistake because the guys they're upstairs. They're not they're upstairs above they've come in through the roof.
Yeah.
They are upstairs. They're trying to get the way down. They've got to get through some blast doors. They're not at the ground level yet.
That has to be an error.
Yeah.
I think it's minimal really, but again, like we've seen a lot of these. When you're dealing with a lot of characters, it's very easy to make those mistakes. And even though there's two separate locations here on each page, you could be forgiven as a colorist or as an artist to forget that Airborne doesn't appear in both scenes. Do you know what I mean? Like you could be thinking it's a follow-on, and he's in this scene, he's obviously in that scene. So, I can kind of forgive on that one, but it's weird that, there's another error for you that we've picked out. We flip back to the front door of the community centre. We've got Airborne kind of like saying, who are you guys? What's going on? And it's like, we're on your side, don't worry. And it's the October Guard. And then all of a sudden, Horror Show's like, here they come. And there you've got this column of Hiss tanks and Rages and all sorts kind of coming down the road, and it's like, uh-oh. And then that's where we kind of start seeing all of those different areas. You've got Dana talking to Brekov saying, we've faced worse odds, don't worry about it. and then like, you've got the hospital basement where Dawn and the team are about to go into the community centre where the basement connects to it. And then you've got, Torpedo saying fire in the hole as he's about to blow the doors. And then you've got the Cobra team on the other side about to like engage. And that's where it ends. And you're like, wow. So again, there's been a lot of action in this one with the basement stuff with, Snake Eyes and all those different Vipers. And everywhere else has just been like the convergence of all these teams to one point, which is really interesting. What are your overall thoughts then about this one, Brian?
I did really enjoy this issue. I thought there's some great humor at various stages throughout the comic. You could see where Larry was having a lot of fun. You got the cops at the roadblock, and then the Joes kind of get passed out by the Dreadnoks, the Bongo
the balloon bear
van, and and then caught up then with the Iron Grenadiers and Destron and Baroness, and and then in the community center itself. Again, you've got that convergence with the Joe Parachute team hooking up with the October Guard and Crystal Ball. And Crystal Ball is the butt of everybody's joke. They even say like at the end, and this strange fellow is also on your side.
Yeah.
Crystal Ball goes, strange? Wait a minute. Loads of action. albeit it's all happening kind of with Snake Eyes. He is really taking command of the situation here. I mean, at this point in the story, you feel like Throwdown is invincible, that he'll easily, fight his way out of this. And what was the need for all these other teams to come to his rescue anyway? No need by the looks of it at this stage. But I think Larry has set up a few places where he can introduce a few twists and turns into this story, and I'd be curious to see what happens next week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think overall I really enjoyed it. Again, there's some aspects that kind of frustrate me still, and it's mainly because I feel like this issue could have been last issue. All of this that's happened in this issue could have happened in the previous issue, and we wouldn't, because we had that thing where it was like two almost identical issues where they were just getting ready to go, weren't they? And it just felt like you could have combined all of that into one issue. This could have been issue 7, and that gives you 8 and 9 for an absolute Barney of a fight, and then 10 to kind of like put a nice bow on everything and conclude it. So I sort of feel like it's only given Larry and the creative team a very short time period now to kind of get whatever's got to happen, like the actual fight, the battle, and a conclusion and a kind of little bow on everything before, in just 2 issues. And I feel like I think I'm more annoyed at the last issue than I am at this one, for that, because it's not, loads of stuff happens in this. Obviously he's getting to a point here where he wants it to be that Throwdown didn't need rescuing. All these teams are coming to help him, and he's already kind of out of the place. That to me is hilarious, and I think is where Larry's kind of going with it. And also, I'm really intrigued as to what her mindset's going to be when it comes to obviously a standoff between her and Throwdown. I mean, that's got to happen, hasn't it, at some point in 9 and 10. So I'm really interested to see what happens there. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a good pace, lots of stuff happening. And like I said, there's only a few little elements in there that kind of irked me. The Arashikage being so brazen when they are all ninjas and could just, as easily have made their way where they needed to be, get into position in a really stealthy way. And I think that would have been really nice to explore visually as well. I think they could have done something really cute with that on a page. And and the humor in it's really good, like the fact that the Dreadnoks overtake the Joes and trash through the and then the Balloon Bear van goes past, and then the Iron Grenadiers go past, and it's just like, what is going on? We're going to be late for this party. So I think that that was really interesting. And also I thought what I never thought I'd see happen was Snake Eyes kneecapping Mindbender and Cobra Commander to obviously incapacitate them.
Yes, that was pretty lethal.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking, wow, that's hardcore. I think in reality, you're better off just if you're incapacitating them to get away, why not just kill them? I know that's a bit harsh to say, but if you take Cobra Commander and Mindbender out, you've just killed all these Vipers. You've pretty much done a massive service to the world by taking out the main head of the snake, shall we say. And you've already taken out a ton of the Vipers. Who's going to follow? Destro and the Iron Grenadiers are going in to kind of take over anyway. The Dreadnoks are led by Zartan. Like, to me, it seems like a great opportunity to just kill them and get it done and dusted. But that obviously is not going to happen, and I know why it's not happened. What I mean is, in reality, you'd think just kill them and move on.
Well, to take that point and to be fair with it, if you know as a writer that you have to keep Cobra Commander alive,
of course,
because the franchise relies on him being alive,
yes,
then the creative challenge is to write it in such a way that the opportunity's there to kill this guy, it's right to kill this guy, and then is it a crisis of conscience or is it circumstances prevent you from being able to do that, and write that into the story.
I think one thing I'm missing here is the fact that unarmed hostages is another aspect. Like, he's happily killing Vipers because they've got weapons and they're attacking him. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me in a written kind of scenario, and obviously for this that makes a hell of a lot of sense. I just think, like, the same context, these guys are this wouldn't be the case in reality. They would have been taken out because they're serious terrorist threats. But anyway, that by the by, and it makes sense when you talk it out. What would you give it as an overall rating, but as an issue?
Well, I think this issue, I'm going to go with the full 5 on this one, because nice. I really enjoyed this issue, I have to say. Overall, as an arc, I think this is probably one of the weaker arcs that we've seen in the last couple of years with Real American Hero. And I think it's suffered from trying to work in every single character that ever existed. And for some people, there's obviously a huge appeal for that. But for me, who's maybe more of an Action Force fan, and I don't have that sort of childhood connection to a lot of these G.I. Joe characters, it's not necessary for me. So you could have taken what's potentially a great story arc and condensed it down to like 5 or 6 issues.
Yeah, agreed.
And made it really, really, A+++, top quality, story, action, the whole lot. And it would have been probably amazing. But the fact that it got diluted over 10 issues, I think that's taken away from the arc a little bit. But as a standalone issue, just reading this issue here, I think if you came in cold to Real American Hero, you just picked this up and maybe you hadn't been following it for a few months, you could dive back into this. You could quickly get up to speed on what's happening, and because there's enough exposition to kind of fill in the gaps in the story, and really enjoy some good humor, some great action, and some solid artwork.
I agree on that one. I'm going to give it 4.5, but only because of those few little errors that we spotted. The fact, and again, you can forgive a lot of that because of the sheer amount of characters you're dealing with, and I do understand that to a degree. But like Airborne is literally in one place, and then the next page is in another place, so it's kind of a bit too much for me. And all they had to do, all that has to do in order to fix that is to give him a different deco. And what also kind of irks me is that we hardly see Freefall. We hear him mentioned, but in terms of actually seeing him, I think the only time we do actually see him is from a massive distance as they're all coming in, because you can count 8 characters on the roof when the Vipers spot them. Obviously, in the previous panel, we don't see him. We see Ripcord, Airborne, Muskrat, Torpedo, Tunnel Rat, Lady J, and Wetsuit. But it's almost like they leave him out like completely. So that kind of irked me, because I really, Freefall's another character I really like as a toy, as a figure. I really enjoyed the character, and so to not actually see him visually is kind of like a big mistake for me. And it's almost as if instead of having Airborne right there in that shot, have Freefall. And at least you've shown him in shot, and he gets his 5 seconds of fame, and then we move on. So that does kind of irk me. He's only mentioned, and you do see him, but you can't even work out which character he is in that long shot. So that's the only reason really I'm giving it, taking a half mark away. But yeah, it's fun, a lot of action, thanks to thanks to Throwdown, and yeah, I have to say it's a good one. Anyway, we've come to the end of another cracking issue, another cracking comics burst. Brian, thank you very much for joining me, mate.
My pleasure, as always.
That was a long one. Keep it locked to the Full Force. We'll obviously have a couple of... we'll have the next issue of Paul Aller's run as well to do very soon. And but when I pull my finger out and get that Disorder of Battle Part 2 sorted out, we can do that as well. Probably next week on those, but yeah, Brian, looking forward to those, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. So the Paul Aller's run, really enjoying that. That's going to be great. Disorder of Battle, love doing those. That's going to be great fun to resume that again. And of course, 274 next month. Really looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Well, that's it for this instalment of the Full Force Comics Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-host, Brian Hickey. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always, you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show, you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force. And a big shout out to our sponsors, Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, located at 601 Business Loop 70 West Suite 263, located in the Parkade Center, Columbia, Missouri. You can visit their website at distantplanetcomics.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/distantplanetcomics.
G.I. Joe fans, welcome to Cobra Convergence 5. Cobra Convergence is the G.I. Joe fan community's month-long celebration of G.I. Joe's eternal enemy, Cobra. Please join as your favorite G.I. Joe podcasters, YouTubers, photographers, and cosplayers present new Cobra content for the entire month of August.
G.I. Joe, the Full Force Podcast, Half the Battle, Special Mission Force, Comic Tropes, Toy Polloi, Plastic Battles, Scorched Earth Creations.
Every day in August, we'll spotlight a G.I. Joe fan creator with new Cobra-related content. That's a dose of Cobra every single day of the month.
Talking Joe, a G.I. Joe podcast. Merry Mercenary Cosplay. Order of Battle podcast. Cobra Island. SEO Toy Review. MacDowell. Mate Milo. Fun School Roni.
The full lineup of creators is now available at hcc788.com. Make sure you subscribe and follow each one so you don't miss anything.
Joe Motion Videos 82, JLS Comics, What's on Joe Mind Podcast, The Human Mechanism Mark II, Green Yeti 907, My Side of the Laundry Room, The File Card Podcast, Real Hector Canadas.
We want every G.I. Joe fan to get involved, support the fan community, and show us your creativity. You will find instructions at hcc788.com for how you can join the convergence with your own Cobra creations.
Joe Fan 82, Jay Bond, codename New2Vero 2, Painted Plastic, Joe Colton Cosplay, Hooded Cobra Commander 788.
It's time to turn the world blue. Cobra Blue. Go to hcc788.com right now and get ready for the convergence. Oh.